deliberately joined this to be part of just giving a simple service that I can be able to offer to my country. And you found us when we had finished the first session dealing with this topical discussion, East African Community Priority Targets for Sustainable Economic Prosperity. We phrased our question that we would like the viewers to join us together and we discuss together, analyze together, looking at what is the role of Uganda in building a strong, reliable East African community, economic and political integration. We are very positive that we can be able to achieve this dream. But again, we are realistic to remember that before this comes to play, in 1970s, we had challenges that were political. And the openness of the mind and the honesty of leaders to build a strong, reliable East African community seems to have been affected with a number of challenges, including the mistrust of the then time among the politicians and the misunderstanding of our challenges by the citizens. Now, here we are. We are not looking at East Africa community of 3 countries, which by the then time were the founders, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. We are looking now at the 7th country, which is including Democratic Republic of Congo. When you were here the other time, you gave us hope that we are going to solve the problem of Democratic Republic of Congo, threat of insecurity, which you ably discussed and gave us the cause of it that Honorable was talking about before you came over here. But we moved further than this, and we are saying our integration is not just a formality. Our desire is to see the common person and our nations, beginning with Uganda, being central in being given a model of having achieved what we desire to achieve. And this is all done under the NRM government and under the new formation of the East African, the revival of East African community. Would like to receive your submission, sir, and maybe thereafter we look at what should we look at the priority targets. We talked a bit about security in the first session. We are now talking about the issue of trade, how it is being crippled and in need of maybe rejuvenated. Kindly, please, you give us your package.
Thank you, and thank you, Honorable Francis. In my humble view, for us, East African community integration is a matter of survival. It's a matter of survival. We either integrate or the international dynamics will make us irrelevant. We are blessed that now we have a community that comes from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. That's a rare opportunity. You can only compare with the EU, which has Mediterranean Sea and then the North Sea that they have access. So when you have an opportunity of 7 countries giving a market of over 300 people, then you will talk and people will listen. Unfortunately, we do suffer from what I call parochial nationalism, where people think they are better off in small ponds than the big sea. Otherwise, for Uganda, we lack strategic depth in terms of security, which you discussed in my absence. Strategic depth means that in the event of any war on our country, it's just a walkover for the enemy because of the small size. But you imagine if somebody is starting from Mombasa, you are expected to be dealing with a region, a country, if I may use the word, that is as deep as 4,000 kilometers. That's what we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
2, why don't we even study why has China become what it is today? You know, when people tell us about democracy, I normally laugh at them. Because the very preachers of democracy have held China as the most favored status in foreign policy for a long time. The lecturers of democracy have had China regarded as the most favored status in the foreign policy of the State Department. Why? You think they love the Chinese?
So they are ranked to be a democratic country?
No, they are not ranked as democratic. But they can never be told what to do. Because it's a market you cannot afford to avoid. Just imagine one Chinese smoking one cigarette of Marlboro per day. And imagine one cigarette costing $1. That's $1.4 billion a day.
That is serious, good information.
So it's a serious business. Therefore, when we integrate as East Africa, and you are talking about 300 million, then you can, somebody will listen to you. I don't know whether one of Babu remembers. The late Kategaya traveled to China to woo investors. And he was in the state of Manchuria. And so he gave the opportunities Uganda has. And then they say, one businessman said, excuse me, sir, what's the population of Uganda? And he said 24 million. 24 million. Then, 2002.
Yes.
May his soul rest in peace. Amen. One by one, his audience packed their bags and left.
And by that time, what was the population of China?
Manchuria alone was 24 million. So it didn't make business sense to come to Uganda when Manchuria alone had the same population. So what we are talking about is that for Uganda and for Ugandans, integration is a matter of survival. I began on the security aspect, now economic sense. Maybe you may have mentioned it in my absence, but the financial meltdown of 2008 and 9 did not affect Uganda the way it affected elsewhere because of regional trade. Uganda could afford not to export beyond the ocean because of trading with the South Sudan, with Eastern DRC, with Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Kenya. And so, when you integrate, when you have internal, intra-regional trade, you are sure that these economic hiccups you are seeing because of the war with Ukraine and what have you, would not affect you as it has affected now. That's number one. Number two, Uganda as a country, as government, we have done what we are supposed to do. In the words of some individuals who have bent over. Because even when others put restrictions on our products, we don't restrict on theirs. I remember when Kenya was stopping our milk and maize, some individuals said, no, we should also retaliate. But in whose interest are you retaliating? If you are advocating for economic integration, and then you are violating some of the provisions of the common market, are you serious? Like a country which closed her border? I mean, I didn't understand it myself.
Yes, sir.
But the point I'm emphasizing is that on the security front, integration is a do or die. On the economic front, we needed it the other day.
Those are priority areas.
They are priority areas. On the political front, and some people have been saying, you see, President Museveni wants to be president of East Africa. Really? You see, if you are short-sighted...
Isn't it enough to be the president of Uganda?
I don't know. You see, if you are short-sighted, then you limit a program on an individual. Mwalimu Nyerere, who began this philosophy, is not even here.
Yes, yes.
The gentleman is long gone. But he believed in an East African community.
Yes.
Because actually he said, it's Professor Gumam of Dar es Salaam University. He says the European Union needed integration for economic prosperity. For Africa, we need integration for survival.
For survival.
Now it's even worse. This region has now been found to have enormous strategic resources. Enormous strategic resources. Now, I normally want to use very simple terms. If you are Ugandan you are as good as a husband of a very beautiful woman. You either have the money to sustain her and the stamina to do what is required of you, or else you will be helped. If you are in Uganda, DRC, South Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, and you are on your own as individual countries, you are very vulnerable. There are some multinational corporations that have the muscle to arm twist any of these single countries. But when you are a regional country, if I may use that word, it becomes very difficult for anybody to bulldoze you.
A regional country.
Yes. You imagine Kenya has oil, Uganda has oil, DRC has oil. Uganda has enormous gold, Tanzania has enormous gold, DRC has enormous gold. When we are one country, we shall speak and people will listen.
Thank you so much. I want first to appreciate your submission, but again, cause this point of a discussion by saying let us challenge ourselves. Number one, you talked about security, of which fellow countrymen and fellow countrywomen outside there, they desire to see the realization of this real security in the region, where we are no longer having, ups and downs in the border of between DRC and Uganda. Kisoro, you know that very well. At least you've been trying to see how we can contain it, as we are privileged to be with you as a person from security. And this is not something that happened yesterday. All that you have said personally, I subscribe to it 100%.
Yes, sir.
But the desire by most of fellow citizens is to see when we list these revolts, this insecurity that is causing Uganda to be much more importing, they do call it importing in quotes, more refugees and harboring them here, of course, under tough situations. When will this end? That's the question number one, challenging ourselves. Number two, the infrastructure, which is supposed to have so far, after 22 years of this economic East African community revival, we seem to still be going at a low pace, especially the railway transport, which is not connected very well here in Uganda. It is a very poor one, the transport sector, the railway transport, and making the cost of business to be difficult. And we would like, me personally as a patriot, I want us to be a model. Number three, agriculture will seem not to have done all that it takes to be a real basket of East Africa by having the food reserves that can place us far above not to be suffering from famine. And then we move to East Africa. In one or the other, you may give us any input as will come also, Honorable Captain Babu. You may make one simple statement and then we will come Captain Babu to also give his contribution.
First and foremost, indeed we are supposed to be the food basket for the whole region. I can tell you with certainty, the last time I was in the Kenya Agricultural Research Station in 2008, I was informed that only 27% of Kenyan soil was arable for maize growing. 27%. And we all know that ugali is Kenya's staple food. Zambia, the same. Malawi, the same. Botswana, the same. South Sudan, the same. DRC, the same. What am I talking about? When you do not appreciate what you have, then you don't know the importance of your presence. When Uganda chose to go private sector led, all right? The whole essence was to allow the private sector to grow first and foremost, because when the private sector grows, it gives you the resources as a government through taxation to build the infrastructure you need. Today, we have examples. Mozambique nationalized what was in the private sector.
Would you allow we go for a short break and you come into this insight where we shall share, both of us? It's a pleasure to have your submission, and I see you bringing the geo-economic politics, and we continue to analyze.
We can't avoid them.
Thank you so much. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV, dear viewers. This is, a time we can't miss such information that can inspire us, not to lead us to expire. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV as we come back.